Well, since it's a little untraditional since we eloped last year. So it is our delayed reception slash anniversary party, whatever you want to call it. Um, and we're seeing it's more and more becoming just as big as a wedding, even though we're trying not to have it be too in depth. But yes, no bridal party for this. Just the celebration, no ceremony. We probably will say some vows and that sort of thing. But other than that, just a good time with friends and family.
Fantastic. So let's first thing first. Let's introduce you. So we have Taylor here. She's I can say our bride, although you're not ours. As a rental company, we serve you. So Joyven Rentals is happy to work with you on preparing everything for your wedding. And I would like to ask you first, if you can tell us, like, how did you find us?
I was recommended you all by the Sinclair family as you all worked with them on Rick Sinclair's retirement party. And she just had nothing. My best friend is Riley. That's her dad. So when I was getting into the process, I had sent out a lot of inquiries, mostly with Atlanta-based companies, even though our event is about 45 minutes south of Atlanta. Google these days, SEO isn't always the best. So even if there is local options, sometimes it's really tough to find those options. And then they just may have limited online presence or limited reviews. So, when you're sitting at your computer and you're just trying to quickly send out 10 inquiries or, it's easy to go to kind of just the bigger names or the ones that you see. And you're not always happy with the answers you get back, whether it's all the added fees and the pricings. And even though I don't think of 45 minutes, away is that far out, it is for a lot of companies, and they treat it as almost kind of like a destination thing. So yeah, when we were actually given a local option, it just seemed like a no-brainer. And then working with you guys and knowing that you had, network connections and things that went past, because I'm a very literal visual person. So sometimes you don't know what people can offer you until you actually get in there and start talking to someone and emailing, which I know a lot of people may not really want to put in the time to do that. Or if they hire a wedding planner and they're not doing things themselves, the wedding planner is obviously going to go with their top companies that they use all the time. And that's not always, and most of the time, not cost efficient for the bride. So yeah, I chose to kind of take my time and look around. And luckily I was really happy with that recommendation and it worked out perfectly.
That's wonderful. So thank you for choosing us. 2 points that you brought up: the distance of the rental company, because that contribute the cost of delivery, and then the setup, because you need to take employees from far away. So everything adds up, and then you can save on items. You have to pay a hefty amount of delivery fee,
Yes.
And also it's great that you're doing the planning yourself. I wanted to know what percentage of the decor, the bar setup, and other rental arrangements would you say that you're already checked off your list?
Well, I would say we pretty much were at 90% now with everything. I mean, if we're just talking about the rentals, I
Right.
feel like there are some things that we discovered in the process that local or not, it's just, it's going to be pricey no matter which way it is. I think we learned that with lounge furniture. That's a huge thing. They're just really heavy pieces. I think a lot of the pricing comes into maybe just liability of potential damage of upholstered items, which I totally understand. So I think little things like that. Luckily I had some lead time and I spent weeks and I found a few pieces on Facebook Marketplace that I
That's
was
great.
blessed that had friends and family. Even though I'm New York local, I have a lot of help back at home and people who are willing to store things. So I think, that's not feasible for the average person to furnish a wedding. That was not my goal, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But, I think when you start looking at things, if you see a couch rental is $500. Well, sometimes if you have the patience and the time and the resources to maybe buy that on the side and then do whatever with it after, you can kind of
True.
cut those pieces down in half. But I think when it came down to the no-brainer of everything else, our lighting, our tinting, our tables, our chairs, our DJ, all those things, those weren't anything I was considering combing through to try and basically build out a storage unit to buy. It's obviously not what I want to do, is store my own
True.
wedding inventory. But, I think you can kind of learn which pieces and honestly, not everyone has all the pieces that you want either. I was lucky that our food and drink vendor had the most beautiful blue colored truck. And that really inspired the whole palette for the whole wedding. Once they sent me a picture of the truck, I said, well, this is going to be the core part of the backyard, is where people are getting the food and drink. Why not just use that blue color of the truck and go from there? So one day I was just on Facebook Marketplace and I found the perfect blue couch to go with it. And then everything else kind of went around that. And then we worked with you guys, and then we found all the perfect pieces that kind of went off the one or two inspo pieces that we already had. So I think that I worked backwards in that sense, is like, let's see what we're working with. We know we have this food and drink vendor. We thank God it wasn't a fire engine red color. That is not in my color wheel. So, I think it's just like you're using what you're working with, and then you kind of go from there, and hopefully you can kind of complement the core things that you have, whether that's vendors, whether that's, a bar that you find that you have to have. I think that was how I was thinking about it. What is my must haves? And then let's complement those pieces and work around it. So I think we did just that. And I think everything we picked out, you guys saw my mood board of what I was trying to do, and you made great recommendations of ways we could make that happen. Especially since this is all taking place in a private residence. It's not a traditional venue. So I think,
Right, in the backyard. Yes.
yeah, I think having a team that's willing to get creative with you and really make that vision happen, that's just as important as, just checking things off the list. So yeah, I think we're about 90% there to answer your question.
That's great. Yes.
Things, but we're pretty much, we're getting there.
That's wonderful. You pretty much answered the question that I was about to ask you, because I was about to ask you, like, for the source of inspiration for your wedding decor and all the fun elements, like the food truck. But it seems like the food truck was the source of it. And did you get other ideas from, like, Pinterest, magazines, or maybe any other wedding that you attended?
Yes, I'm a very opinionated, I know what I want bride. So even though the vision wasn't perfectly there at the start, I think the way it all worked out was completely obvious in terms of, just in my home, it's the same colors as what my decor is. My engagement ring is an emerald green. It's my favorite color. So I think having a blue and green and silver palette, it all ended up being a no-brainer. Like, of course, those were the colors I was going to pick. And I think it just worked out perfectly. And I did pull, you go on Pinterest and you pull some inspirations of just, oh, I like the setup of this, or I like the idea of this, but I don't think I really took a carbon copy inspiration from any one photo. I think my sister, she was the one who sent me the photo of, once we decided on the blue, she sent me the photo of a French powder blue and white checkered dance floor. And she said, okay, we have to have this. This is going to make the whole event. So I think something like that, she was a huge help in the design process, and in saying what are going to be like the statement moments of the reception. And then, just pulling inspiration from things that I like and also things that I wasn't doing for other events. So since we eloped, my mother-in-law had, some colors and floral arrangements in our elopement ceremony. So I knew I didn't want to do something I had already done that had been photographed, whether that was our engagement party or our elopement day. And then, my sisters and my mom and my aunts, they're all throwing me a really gorgeous bridal shower next month. And so I knew the colors they were doing for that. So I also think I just wanted to have everything a little bit different. So everything had its own moment. And I'm really glad that I saved my blue, green, silver palette that's very me and very much just captures, I think, my taste and my style. I'm really glad that that's what we ended up saving for the reception.
That's wonderful. So, if you're looking at the timeline, how long ago did you start this planning journey?
Well, we've been engaged for 2 years, I guess eloped for one. And life happens and you think you have so much time. And we had a cross country move at the top of this year. So I think it was probably around February 1st where I woke up and said, okay, if we're doing this, I should have started yesterday, because then you have your list of all the things you've saved for months and months and months, whether it's photographers or bridal hair and makeup teams or that sort of thing. And you've been picturing of reaching out for months and then
Right.
time gets, away from you and you start reaching out and a lot of those people book very, very far out, very, very far out. Even when it's something like Atlanta, Georgia, and you're not in New York or California, these people still work on sometime 18-month or more schedules. So I would say, there's things that if you really are set on having certain people or vendors and your heart's set on it, the sooner the better. In terms of those services, I recommend reaching out probably 18 months in advance, at least a
Hmm.
year in advance. But it's not the end of the world. I think everything worked out. The people who weren't available, it led me to the person that I ended up wanting 10 times more. And it's always going to work out, no matter when you start. I know plenty of people who planned their wedding in 6 months and it turned out gorgeous and just what they wanted. So it really just depends how much you're taking on yourself and realistically how organized you are and how much you're able to prioritize different things. I think every week I said, okay, well, this has to get done before these three things and that sort of thing. So I think really boots on the ground. We've been working on this since February, and
Yes,
not planning the ceremony portion helps because that is basically a separate event in itself. So that alleviated some of it. And obviously I have a lot of friends and family helping me. But yes, if you're a DIY bride in terms of you're not, and that doesn't mean you're doing everything yourself, literally, it means you don't have a wedding plan. You are your wedding planner. You're responsible for every contract, every email, everything. If that's what you're trying to do, no less than 12 months would I start getting my ducks in a row.
I see. That's great. Maybe we should do a follow up to see like the aftermath. Like half after the party, what worked for you and what didn't. But
Yes.
for now, I would like to know. You mentioned that some items are very expensive when it comes to furniture. So, what would you say that is your biggest compromise? During like planning this, the process planning. I mean.
Um, uh, just in terms of our rentals that we're doing or across everything.
In general, it doesn't have to do necessarily like rental related. Something that you say, I had to compromise, but I live with it, So I. Hope you live with it.
Hmm. I think Well, see, this is a really bratty answer because I feel like I ended up finding a way to get almost everything I wanted. I'm
Yeah,
very determined. So, if it was something my heart was really set on, I feel like I've been able to make it happen, really. I think in terms of costs, no matter how in depth your spreadsheet is, and no matter how much you think you've thought about every little cost, if you're trying to budget out before you even send that first email, I would say the best advice is to take whatever number you have there and probably add 6 grand to that at minimum, because there's always going to be costs that you did not foresee, or that, maybe it's not a main vendor in your mind, but it's still going to be an expense at some point. So you may as well put it on the spreadsheet. I
Well,
think
maybe not necessarily, sorry for cutting you off, maybe not necessarily like the 6 grand. Maybe it's a percentage of, like if you think the budget is X, then it's 20% more or 50% more. I mean, you tell me what you feel that
right.
percent-wise, wise it would be.
I think like for an example, thinking about, okay, we're getting married in a residence. So you can't have parking at a residence. You can't disrupt your neighbors. So thinking about, okay, well, even if people park very, very close by in a parking lot that, we have or we direct people to, well, then you need transportation for those people to get to your house. Maybe you're in an area that has limited Uber and Lyft. So things like, okay, night of transportation, even if you're hiring 4 to 5 SUVs that work on an hourly rate, that's an extra $1,500. That may have been not something that you really thought would be a real cost of, like, oh, we'll get people, we're in a golf cart community. Maybe we'll cart people. Well, not when you have 150 people. So I think things like that will come up. If you have a bridal party, there's always little 3, 4, $500 expenses. It's not necessarily surprises with your vendors. It's more things that happen on the side. I think when you start securing your vendors and you know what is outlined in your deposits and you have your payment schedule, that's set in stone. It's more the ancillary expenses that come along with things on the side that pop up, that, yeah, I think you put it well, where maybe it's not a numerical number in terms of depending what their budget is. It's more a percentage that you should probably put a buffer into.
I,
But no, I think everything else, well, my sister, I was very involved with her wedding planning, and
Mhm.
that was in a destination area. So I think I was preparing myself for a lot of that, because she was, allowing me to look at her deposits and just showing, look, this is the type of fee that comes along. We're like, hey, if you have a rain backup, like, these are things that you have to do, whether you use it or not. You have to plan for it and have it and reserve it. And
One example, I can say that it's the tents that you wanted to have way ahead of the date reserved, because those, if you don't reserve them, you don't get any tents available, especially during October. And then rain can get you on, like it can be a rainy day. You're not prepared for that. And that's a disaster, because everybody would have to run inside the house, and that's gonna be like the end of the party, pretty much.
I would be lying if I said that wasn't the one component that keeps me up at night. So we just,
Hopefully not.
yeah,
Yes.
I think we're just hoping for the best. But I think at the bare minimum, you have to have a huge tent, whether it's, walking in and out of it, or getting from, there's going to be uncomfortable factors that come along if it's a bad weather day. But yes, at the bare minimum, we knew this is an outdoor event. We're not a traditional venue. We're not fitting 130 people inside our house. So we have to have proper rain backups.
Wonderful. So in a way, our conversation turned to be like almost like a checklist for brides on what's very important for them to know when they're like getting into this planning process. So just to kind of summarize, I have another question after that, and that's going to be the last question. But since you mentioned wonderful things, I want to summarize that. Start a year to 18 months ahead. Add more to your budget, more than you think that you're going to spend. Be very detailed with your lists. get your family to help you? Like you mentioned that they're storing some items, that you get on Facebook, and your sister is involved also in the bridal party. So, any other things that you think other brides can benefit from this conversation that you didn't mention yet?
I would say forums can be really helpful if you're part of community Facebook groups and you're just not finding what you're finding on Google. Every single thing that has, you know, turned a leaf in this process is word of mouth recommendations. So you never know who might have something to offer in terms of something that you didn't know was available in your area or nearby. So leaning on people and asking questions and not trying to figure it all out by yourself if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to. Go on Facebook forums in your local community and post asking about, hey, is there a local transportation LLC not going through, a major corporation? Hey, is there someone who can do this? Even when it came with us wanting to do the floating partition idea, I was really set on that. So it involved some carpentry. Okay, well, whose husband or whose boyfriend is going to help me out and do so we can make it happen? Just there's so many people that are going to be willing to help you. You just got to ask for help.
When you say Facebook forums, you mean the groups, the
Yes, so in
Facebook groups? Yes.
Atlanta, there's something that brides post in all the time. It's called Atlanta Social Club. I mean, it's really a forum for, anybody to ask any question or recommendation, whether it's a dentist or, whatever. But things like that. And then I joined the one in my parents' hometown that has 50,000 members, be in just in case I needed services there. And you don't even really have to post. You can these pages have been around for probably 8 to 10 years, so you can just go in the search bar, type in photographer, type in food truck, type in whatever, and you can see a healthy dialogue going on about people recommending things back and forth and talking about their experiences that a lot of people don't really put on Google reviews. Not everyone, even if they're passionate about it, not everyone reviews their services and puts it out there. So there's a lot of information you can gain on things like that you're not going to find on Google.
Social knowledge, which is so great to rely on, and people talk out of they write their out of their own experiences, which is priceless. It's in nowadays when all companies are like heavily like marketing everything and kind of twisting realities. I think this is one of the last resorts that you have for hearing like unbiased opinions, from other brides, especially when they are writing in the aftermath, like after they already celebrated, and helping you like realize what worked for them, what's not. So that's great. Let me ask you one last question. You were so detailed, I thought it's going to be like only a 10 minutes conversation, but it turned to be like a little bit more, but it's gold for other brides. So you did amazing. The last question I have for you is more specifically in your case. You live in New York, you mentioned, and you're celebrating in Georgia. How is the wedding scene different between these two states?
Well, I guess I wouldn't be the best person to answer that because I never looked in New York. I never considered holding anything up here because that's not where our friends and family are based. So I knew I wasn't going to drag people all the way up here. And if I did, I would say it would have been the traditional, we would have probably rented a private room in a restaurant. I feel like that's a lot of people do, and it just comes down to food and beverage minimums, which was honestly our first thing that we looked into. I looked into every single option before I landed on my parents' home. I knew a backyard reception was not an easy feat. I was well aware of that. I wasn't pretending that it was, but I think when no matter what, if you're going to have X amount of people and you want XYZ to go along with it, there's going to be cost that it doesn't matter where it is or where it's at, you're going to be paying for it. I think in my mind, when I started looking into whether it was a traditional venue, even in our college town, something that was special like that, or something that was Metro Atlanta, or in the perimeter. Let's look at all these really beautiful restaurants that have gorgeous decor that fit the vibe that I want. Maybe we can buy it out and just keep the reception there. Basically, just have a DJ and we turn the restaurant into that sort of thing. And I think, one, there's a lot of restaurants that I reached out to. I'd be 3 phone calls in with them, feeling like we're really on the same page, and then they wanna take advantage of you, point blank. They
Oh,
they
that's
they
horrible.
price you on one thing, and then you get to the point where you're given a physical contract of, "Here's what the deposit would be," and there's a $7,000 room fee that probably someone high up said, "Well, it's a wedding, you can throw it in there." It's like, "No, well, you weren't on our 3 phone calls and you wasted my time because you knew that we
Yeah,
were
that's
just
really
talking about a
disappointing.
food and beverage minimum. If I wanted
So,
a room fee, I'd be going to a wedding venue, not a restaurant." So I think things like that, people who aren't in the wedding industry, they think any bride is willing to pay anything, and you also need to know your clientele. If someone's reaching out and knows exactly what they want and what their budget is, then you're both wasting your time if you think you're gonna squeeze something out of them that you're just not. So I
yeah, plus
think
coming to think about it, when you mentioned restaurants, if it's not a venue that is open for weddings and they know what they do, you have to start from scratch. You have to build everything other than the given the core that they have, and sometimes they have a lot of restrictions. From our experience, I can tell you that a lot of restaurants say, "Oh, you can't hang things, you can't tie things, you can't." There's no basic restrictions. You cannot use any confetti. You cannot use a lot of things. So you're very limited. And I think a backyard setup allow you, specifically you, because I know that one of the items, if I may say, that we're gonna bring over there is like a special cable that you're gonna put like draping on, and it's gonna look like exactly what you imagine it to be. So I think you have more control over there.
I just think overall, you start getting lost in the weeds when you do all these inquiries, and you always have to take a step back of, what do I even want out of the night? If I wanted a
True.
dinner party with a DJ in the background, well, then that's fine, but that's really not what I wanted at the end of the day. So I think when things started going down a path of, that's what it would turn into. It just was like, well, that's not worth it to me. What do I want? Well, I want something that feels like a party. I want my, godparent smoking a cigar with my brother and dad, and people dancing on the like those things aren't going to happen in a restaurant. So I think if you just take a step back and you realize, okay, we're going to be paying what we want to pay, but like we also want it to be what we want it to be, and we want it to be a memorable celebration. So I think I was willing to, once I kind of changed that thinking, it's like, well, then maybe I would like to pay a little extra more to, one, have the freedom to do what I want to do, stay as long as I want to stay. It's people can leave at 11, but I can stay there. That's my home. Me and my best friends can stay in the backyard and hang out till 3 in the morning if we want to. So I just think, yeah, in terms of what you want to do, you just need to think about what you even want the night to be, and then build it around there, and not get too lost in, oh well, their decor can do this, or that. It's just like, well, if it doesn't really have anything to do of how you want the night to feel and how much fun you want to have, then at the end of the day, none of those things really matter. So yeah, don't get too lost in the niche things if it starts turning into something that you never even wanted it to be.
Fantastic. The conversation with you is so amazing, because I'm sure the brides and everybody else who is planning a wedding or any other event, can benefit great deal from this conversation. Gave us a lot of insights. Thank you so much, Taylor, for everything and for your time. Although it extended, but that was gold. So thank you so much.
Of
And we
course.
wish you, of course, congratulations on your beautiful upcoming, celebrations. And we're there for you, of course.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Yeah, up next is the bridal shower. You're doing that too. So, bridal shower and then wedding. We're ready.
So are we.